For years, Formula One sold a dream: raw speed, pure competition, the ultimate test of man and machine. But something changed, not overnight, not in a single race, but slowly, quietly, until drivers themselves started to question everything. And then came the breaking point, because when one of the sport's most dominant champions steps forward and calls the racing not real anymore, you don't just listen, you start to wonder, what's really going on behind the scenes? This isn't just frustration, this isn't just a bad weekend, this is something deeper, a growing divide between what Formula One used to be and what it's becoming. Because while fans see more overtakes, more action, more numbers on paper, drivers are feeling something completely different, something unnatural, something forced. And now, the question isn't just whether the sport is changing, it's whether it's losing its identity completely. At first glance, everything looks better. More overtakes, more battles, more movement on track. But look closer and the illusion starts to crack, because what seems like intense racing isn't always real competition. It's timing, it's calculation, it's energy management. Drivers aren't just racing each other anymore, they're racing their batteries. Every move, every overtake, every straight line burst of speed is dictated by something invisible, not instinct, not bravery, but energy deployment. And that changes everything, because instead of pushing flat out, drivers are holding back, waiting, planning when to attack, not based on opportunity, but on available power. It creates a strange rhythm. One moment, a car flies past effortlessly. The next, it's defenseless. And then the roles reverse, again and again. A constant back and forth that looks exciting, but feels empty. Because deep down, it's predictable, predetermined. And for drivers who grew up chasing the limit, this isn't racing, it's management. There was a time when Formula One was simple. Push the car, fight your rival, take the risk. Now, it feels like a game. Not of skill alone, but of strategy layers so complex they overshadow the racing itself. Drivers talk about harvesting energy, deploying energy, saving energy, and suddenly the focus shifts from wheel-to-wheel battles to invisible systems controlling the outcome. It's no longer just about who's faster, it's about who manages the system better. And that's where the frustration begins. Because for purists, for drivers who live for the edge, this feels wrong. It feels artificial, like the sport has replaced instinct with calculation, emotion with algorithms, and adrenaline with percentages. The result? A style of racing that doesn't feel organic, doesn't feel raw, doesn't feel real. And when drivers themselves start to compare it to a video game, you know something fundamental has changed. The beauty of Formula One was always its unpredictability, the chaos, the split-second decisions, the moments where instinct took over and anything could happen. But now, that chaos is disappearing, replaced by control, precision, and systems that dictate behavior. Drivers aren't reacting in the moment anymore. They're executing plans, following targets, managing limitations. And that creates a very different kind of racing, one where mistakes are fewer, but so are moments of brilliance. Because when everything is controlled, there's less room for magic, less room for those unforgettable moves that define careers. Instead, we get calculated overtakes, clean, efficient, but lacking soul. And for fans who fell in love with the unpredictability, something feels missing. Because Formula One was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be intense, messy, unforgiving, and above all, human. This isn't just one voice, it's becoming a pattern. Drivers, quietly at first, now more openly, are expressing the same concern. The cars feel different, harder to push, less natural, less connected. And that disconnect is growing, because when a driver steps into the car, they're not just fighting the track anymore, they're fighting the system, balancing performance with limitations, managing something that shouldn't define racing in the first place. And that leads to frustration. Not because they can't adapt, but because they don't want to. Because this isn't what they signed up for. They didn't dedicate their lives to become energy managers. They came to race, to push limits, to feel the edge of control. And when that feeling starts to disappear, so does the passion, the raw, undeniable passion that made Formula One what it is today. Right now, Formula One stands at a crossroads. On one side, progress, technology, sustainability, a vision of the future that aligns with the modern world. And on the other, tradition, emotion, the raw essence of racing that built the sport's legacy. Both sides have their arguments, both sides have their supporters, but the gap is growing. Because what makes sense on paper doesn't always translate to the track, and what looks good statistically doesn't always feel good emotionally. That's the conflict, a battle between logic and feeling, between evolution and identity. And the danger is that in trying to move forward, the sport might lose what made it special in the first place. This is bigger than one season, bigger than one regulation change. It's about the future of Formula One itself. Because once a sport loses its identity, it's almost impossible to get it back. Fans may stay for a while, numbers may look strong, but the connection, the emotional bond that keeps people coming back, that starts to fade. And drivers feel it first. They sense the shift, they experience the difference, and when they start speaking out, it's not just criticism, it's a warning, a signal that something isn't right. The question now is simple. Will the sport listen, or will it continue down a path that looks right but feels completely wrong? At its core, Formula One was never just about speed. It was about feeling, the sound, the intensity, the danger, the unpredictability. It was about watching a driver push beyond limits, not manage within them. And that's what's at stake. Not just regulations, not just performance, but the very soul of the sport. Because once racing becomes predictable, once it becomes controlled, once it starts to feel like a system instead of a battle, something important is lost. And the people who understand that best are the ones inside the cockpit, the ones risking everything, the ones who know what real racing feels like. And right now, they're telling us something, not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. This isn't what Formula One is supposed to be. And if that message isn't heard, the consequences won't be immediate, they'll be gradual, subtle, until one day people realize the sport they fell in love with is no longer the same.